Hello, and welcome to my humble little channel. One of the benefits of having such a small channel is I don't have any sponsors, and so you don't have to sit through any annoying commercials for things that you're not interested in, you didn't come here to see. So I can just get right into it. And this video is possibly one of the most important I've made, in the sense that it has the potential to help the most amount of people, because I healed myself for very cheap without any doctors or drugs from a very serious condition that I didn't get a name for because the doctors that I went to couldn't identify it. I had blood work and x-rays done, but the symptoms were such that I could barely walk or stand for more than a few minutes. There was too much pain and soreness in my joints, particularly my right hip and my knees. And I'll get into how and when that started and how I healed myself for very cheaply and relatively quickly as well. So the backstory is, it started about 6 years ago. I started to have a slight pain and soreness in my right hip, and I wrote it off as years of working in restaurants, and wearing dress shoes on hard floors and just wearing my body down over time. So it got progressively worse, but it started out fairly mildly in my hip, and then it got worse and it spread to my knees. There wasn't much pain. It was just I started to be weaker and have to hobble around. It literally looked like I had multiple sclerosis or spina bifida or something. I was like Quasimodo hobbling around. And at first I tried the very common avenues of going to doctors and trying their methods first. I got, like I said, x-rays and blood work done, which didn't show anything, which there was obviously a problem. And I'm sorry, I don't have any photographic or video documentation of this, because honestly, when you're walking around all crippled, your first thought isn't, hey, I should take video and pictures of myself. I will show one picture or a couple pictures that I took in one of my treatments. That was me getting dry needling or acupuncture, whatever people call it, different things, which I'd never tried before. And honestly, that didn't have any effect either. And honestly, that's not going to be evidence enough for some people. Some people could just say, well, that doesn't prove that you were crippled or disabled, because people do that normally when they're relatively healthy. But so I guess you'll just have to trust me that I was in a bad way. To the point where I had to quit my job in tears because I was in pain, trying to walk around a restaurant, which I couldn't do anymore. I'd been doing that for almost 20 years, more than 20 years at that point, and I couldn't physically do it anymore. So to go through all the things I tried first before I actually found what healed me was, first I had my uncle take a look at me. He was a physical therapist, and he determined that one of my legs was slightly shorter than the other, and maybe certain insoles would help with that. I got the insoles, and that was another ordeal, was that they were trying to charge me like $800 for little pieces of plastic to put in my shoes, and that's an obvious ripoff. So I didn't do that, but I did get other insoles that were similar, with arch support, and so I definitely upped my shoe game and insole game, because I definitely still wear those, but that didn't help. The next thing I tried was changing my diet. I'd become mostly vegan years before, and I figured, well, maybe my joints and cartilage was deteriorated because I wasn't getting enough protein, so I went back to eating more protein. I tried supplements like glucosamine chondroitin sulfate. I learned all this new stuff that I'd never heard of before, and tried that, changed my diet and supplements for months. Didn't have any appreciable effect. So that was another thing that suffered, was my mental state, because as my body deteriorated, I couldn't work anymore, and my mind was very depressed at the time, and I was denied unemployment and disability, and that's a whole other can of worms. My savings was dropping rapidly, couldn't find any work. since I couldn't get unemployment, since technically I wasn't laid off, I just couldn't physically do my job anymore. So, and then the disability, I don't know why I didn't qualify for that. I guess it was because the doctors couldn't really identify what was wrong with me, so they couldn't put a label on it, even though I guess they have a lot of people who fake it or try to game the system and technically don't deserve the benefits they get. But I was in a bad way, trust me. I mean, I was not faking it. You can ask anyone who knew me at the time, my family. I don't know why I would fake that, but yeah, I guess some people do it to get the benefits, but that was not me. I had a serious problem, and doctors are just not as capable as a lot of people think they are at identifying and figuring out root causes of things and treating them, because they're kind of programmed to think in terms of drugs and medicine and expensive surgeries and things, and in the end that is not actually what solved the problem. We'll get to that. So what did solve the problem? Eventually I had enough feedback from guides and mentors suggesting detoxing, and they didn't give me a specific avenue to do that. They just said, detox the body and it can heal itself. And I was, at that point I was thinking that the only thing, if that didn't work, that would solve the problem was either expensive and painful surgery or I would end up in a wheelchair. Neither of those options really appealed to me, so I was kind of at the end of my rope, so I figured, whatever, I'll try detoxing. And so one thing that came up for me, and again, I'll get into other ways of doing it, but what the first one that I tried ended up working for me, and that was these herbal foot pads. Here's a package of the one that I ended up trying. I actually tried a different brand first, but this is the ones that I eventually got. You'll notice the brand is TXL Active, and they're not a sponsor. I'm not getting paid. I'm just sharing what worked for me and how I healed myself from a pretty debilitating condition. And I honestly would recommend people trying this for all kinds of health issues, because there's a lot of toxicity that people have in their bodies from all the things that people consume and think. Actually, negative thoughts can have effects on your body as well. That's why they call it dis-ease. People are literally not at ease with something, either judging themselves or society or other people, and that can manifest physically. But either way, because this worked for me, now I realize that it was toxicity and inflammation in my joints from all the years of not the best eating and drinking and smoking, and I never smoked cigarettes, but I smoked cannabis for years, living in California, working in restaurants. It's quite common, but and I still did that up until relatively recently. But again, once you learn what's causing problems in your body, it's pretty easy to give it up, because you think everyone's doing things they think serve them, but when you realize it's actually hurting you, then it's a lot easier to let it go. But anyway, so these herbal foot pads, all natural ingredients. They look like tea bags here in the package. They kind of look like tea bags, and the idea is you tape them to the bottoms of your feet, and that they come with these kind of medical adhesive pads too. So you unwrap this from the plastic packaging and tape this on the bottom, and you tape it to the bottom of your feet and leave it for about 6 to 8 hours, it says. So the ideal time to do that is when you're sleeping. I've worn them when I'm awake and when I'm trying to just relax or lay down, but if you get up to walk around, it gets mushy. It feels kind of slimy and gross under your foot and squishy. So the ideal time to do it is when you're sleeping. And the adhesive can sometimes not stick so well, so sometimes you may want to wear socks over them to keep them pressed to your foot, but then you want to wash the sock because that can kind of get sticky. So the first time I tried this, I wasn't sure it was going to work. I was, like I said, sort of desperate and figured, hell, I'll try it. And just if it'll help me prevent me from having to get expensive and painful surgery or getting a wheelchair, then I'll try it. And so I was a skeptic at first. I didn't believe, I didn't know what to think, and I figured I'll give it a try. So the actual ingredients in this are, it says bamboo vinegar, wormwood, and vitamin C. Again, I'm sure there are other ones out there with slightly different ingredients. I'm just saying what works for me, and I still use these to this day, even though I, solved my problem. I don't know if I could prove it to you now by getting up, but I guess you just have to trust me that I don't have the issue anymore. And so it took a little while. I will warn you that it's not an overnight fix. If you've been putting unhealthy stuff in your body for years, then it might take a little while to get it all out of your system, especially if you're still doing that. I've tried to reduce, how much I was actually consuming, what people call free radicals, end up, creating toxins and inflammation in your body, which can have a variety of effects on different organs and your skin and all kinds of things. So, but when you get it out of your system, you may be surprised with how the body can heal itself. So, what happens is after you wear them for a significant amount of time, and I'd looked up research on other people who'd used them before, and so this is a used pad. It's kind of gross looking, but this is what they look like. This is a before and after, I guess. This is what they look like new. It just looks like a tea bag, and then after, this is supposedly things that come out of your body. So your body has a natural energy flow, and it can come out the top of the head and through the feet. And so the idea is that the ingredients in the pad help collect certain things from within your body, and it ends up getting trapped on this pad that you end up, you throw it away. And so I was skeptical, like other people I saw. They think, well, no, it's just the ingredients in the tea bag, and that it's your bodily oils are kind of making it more transparent, and that's what you're seeing here. But that's not the case, because I've seen people who use these for a while, and eventually there's less and less that shows up on here. And that wouldn't be the case if it was coming from inside the bag, because then it would always show up, and it wouldn't become less and less over time. So, and this is a recent one, and so I'm sure I still have toxicity in my body, because there's so much in the things that people consume, the products that they use, the water that they drink. People don't even realize what they're getting in their bodies, because there's sort of been a lot of what I call shenanigans that going on. That there's a lot of unnatural and unhealthy ingredients and things that people don't even know about. They don't realize that they're slowly poisoning themselves. But that's what I finally figured out what did it, because so I was using these every night, and after about a week of using them every night, I felt like I started to feel a little bit better. It wasn't very obvious yet, but after 2 weeks, I definitely noticed that there was a slight improvement. And so that was motivation enough to keep using them. And they're relatively cheap too, because this whole bag, obviously prices vary. By the time you see this, it might be more or less, but right now these are under $20 for this bag that contains 70 pads. So that's more than a month's worth if you use them every day. And so it's a pretty good deal for something that worked very well for me, and I know it will for other people too. I've been giving these out to people as gifts, because it literally saved my life and changed my life in a profound way. So like I said, after about 2 weeks, I started to notice improvement pretty significantly. And after a month of using them, I was about 80% back to normal, or back to about 80% of where I used to be. And so I was hooked, and now I figured I'm probably going to keep using them for the rest of my life, though not as much, not as often. Now I use them 2, maybe 3 times a week just for maintenance, but honestly, I don't need them anymore, because I can do everything I used to now. I feel 100% again. That took a little while longer. I didn't have a timetable on that one, but eventually, yeah, I feel 100% now. I can run, walk, swim, do jumping jacks, and before, no, I really couldn't. I guess you'll just have to take my word for that, but yeah, I have no reason to lie about that. Like I said, I'm not getting any payment for this. I'm just sharing what worked for me. And I'm not even saying that this is the way you have to do it. Like I said, there are other ways of detoxing. Your body can naturally detox. I mean, you detox every time you go to the bathroom, technically. But when there's so much stuff in your body, then you may need a little more. Like saunas are a very effective form of detoxing. Drinking a lot of water can help, flush your system. Obviously, is a natural way of detoxing. But again, I've done other videos on water quality. You want to make sure you're getting good quality water and not drinking from the tap, because most tap water is not great, has a lot of stuff in it. So again, you just got to be really conscious and do your research and experiment, find out what works best for you. Like I said, there are plenty of other brands of these out there. I tried another brand first, but ended up finding these for cheaper. So this is what's been working for me. Again, the brand is TXL Active. You can see that. So again, this isn't the only way you can do it. Do whatever is most exciting to you to do. And you may be surprised, because, like I was, because I ended up avoiding expensive and painful surgery and or a wheelchair or whatever else I thought I was going to need. I was very in a dark place at the time, because I'd been healthy most of my life up until then. I'd never had any major health issues, but then all of a sudden this was a huge catalyst. And now I realize one of the positive aspects of it was so that now I can help other people and share my healing journey, and hopefully you can have similar effects. Like I said, if not from these, then with whatever you do, whatever you decide to do for detoxing. And some people do juicing cleanses, drinking things like ginger and turmeric and paprika or different things like that. I didn't really ever try that one. Like I said, I tried some drugs. I tried changing my diet, some supplements, things like that. But the doctors, a lot of doctors really don't know as much as they think they do, and other people they've been programmed with certain information through their school, and people have been programmed to go to them, and that's it. Like, not really do their own homework, not really be your own doctor, and experiment on yourself. Sometimes it really works out, like it did for me in this case. Changed my life, and now I'm completely healthy again, and I recommend detoxing to everyone. I apologize if I haven't released this sooner. YouTube has actually discouraged a lot of people from creating more content by their censorship and removing content. So that was kind of the case with me. I'm sort of disheartened from having videos taken down, and you spend a lot of time and effort making these things just only for someone else to come along and just arbitrarily take it down for different reasons. That's why I've tried to minimize any potential conflicts or reasons for people to come along with and claim copyright infringement, or they have a problem with the content, or even using a background, or other things that in the background that aren't mine. I don't have ownership of, and I feel like I see people all the time making content with other people's content, and I see that they get away with it, but I haven't. I've had things removed before for what I feel are unjust reasons, so I don't want to give any possible excuse for others to come along and remove this. Because, like I said, I'm here to share what's worked for me, and the channel's called Love and Service for a reason. I'm trying to help others, and even though it's not a very popular channel at the moment, even if one or a few people get something out of this, that's job well done and mission accomplished. So, but again, I can't heal for others. No one can. You can only heal yourself and share what worked for you, and if others do the same, great. But I know that a lot of people aren't going to stick with this. It's they're looking for a quick fix, like a drug or a shot or something like that may help. That was one thing I thought about doing as well before I discovered this, was PRP, or platelet-rich plasma injections, where they take your own biological material and extract it and spin off the platelets and inject things back into your body to concentrate the healing factor in the area that you're trying to heal. That was one avenue I was looking into, because it makes sense to me, but I didn't have to do it because these pads worked wonders. And I'm pleased to be able to share that with you, and hopefully, if you have any kind of health issue, I recommend detoxing as a primary strategy, because you never know. Like, I probably, if I would have been diagnosed by somebody, it would have been, who knows? All they're doing is putting a label on it, and I've never heard a doctor tell you, oh, it's toxicity or something like that. But that's exactly what it turned out to be for me, and that's exactly what a lot of people are dealing with, and they don't even realize that if they just remove the cause, the root of the issue, which is all the chemicals and additives and artificial ingredients they're getting in their body. Now, a lot of people have microplastics. If you actually just get rid of that, the body returns to a state of homeostasis and naturally wants to heal itself. I'm sure you've experienced this, in a small scale, like a paper cut or a bee sting or something, whatever you experience, and eventually it's gone. The body heals. So that's that very much was in alignment with my belief system, and so and what I've learned is that really, your beliefs are a huge part of it. A lot of people are not going to believe these work, and so they're not going to stick with it, and they're just going to dismiss it as, oh, that's hocus pocus, voodoo, whatever. Because again, a lot of people have been programmed to think only in terms of medicine and surgery. But again, the famous Hippocrates, that the Hippocratic Oath is named after, said, "Let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food." Well, a lot of doctors don't prescribe food, and they're not taught a lot about nutrition. They're taught a lot about more expensive treatments. So because it's part of trying to make money in business in that industry. So it's not all their fault. They don't necessarily know that. They've just been programmed like everyone else has. But so that's really all this video needs to be. It doesn't need to be any longer, but I wanted to share what helped me heal, what changed my life dramatically, and hopefully you can do the same. It's worked for me. I know it can work for others, but again, it's all up to you as well, what you do and what you believe, what works for you. Like I said, if this doesn't appeal to you, saunas or there are juice cleanses, there are other avenues of doing it, but aside from, changing your diet and stop consuming things that are not really healthy, like drugs and alcohol, and even, coffee. A lot of people drink coffee every day, and that can add up into your system. Caffeine is a drug. There's a lot of mold often in coffee, and pesticides and other things too. So you'd be surprised. It's coming at us from all angles. People drink energy drinks and diet sodas or teas or different things like that, not even realizing that they're getting stuff in their system. I drink a detox tea, but then I recently learned that in a lot of tea bags, if you put it in hot water and steep it, it releases a lot of microplastics into that. So I stopped doing that, and now I cut the tea bags open and empty it into a strainer, a metal strainer, and I steep it that way now. So instead of using the tea bags themselves, it's an extra step, but I feel like it's helping me, so to me it's worth it. Tea strainers are cheap and readily available, and so it's another little secret and trick that I've learned recently. So I'm full of them. Stay tuned. I've got plenty more to share. I'm always learning and trying new things. I have some new products on the way that I'm looking forward to trying. I'm using something right now that I'm still fairly new. I've only been using it for about a couple weeks, so I'm not going to make a video on that just yet. I've got a new healthier toothpaste that I'll make a video on that I've been using, better than the previous one that I've been using. Here's a sneak preview of that. And so constantly learning and being my own doctor and scientist, experimenting on myself, trying new things, and it's amazing. Constantly learning from other people on YouTube. If you're not reading the comments on YouTube, you're missing out on a lot of the best content, because a lot of people, I'm learning from a lot of doctors sharing their videos, but then all the comments underneath are from people who have either tried what they're recommending or have tried other things that work for them. And so there's just a wealth of information out there for you to find. And another video I'll make coming up too is that I realized recently that a lot of people don't know about ad blockers and how to block all the incessant commercials that they're trying to push out on people. And I haven't watched an ad in years because I know how to block it. And occasionally YouTube will change their software and sort of make it so certain ad blockers don't work anymore. But people are so creative and adaptive that within a few minutes I find a new one that does work. So I've got a new one now that I just discovered. So there'll be another video about that, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Yeah, I'm super pleased that these have worked for me. I can't tell you how much money I saved over the years by not having to, use drugs or surgery to fix my problem. I just healed myself naturally with detoxing, and hopefully you can do the same. But either way, I wish you happiness and health on your journey, and until next time, take care. Infinite love and light as always. Peace.